record this, and it will make it available on our website for anyone who couldn't be with us here tonight. And with that, I'm going to pass things to Janelle, who is going to introduce our speakers today.
Oops. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me good? So my name is Janelle, and I'm the program coordinator for STEAC. For today's agenda, I'll begin by giving a brief intro to our guest speakers, followed by the guest speaker presentation, which will last roughly 30 minutes or so. And then we'll go ahead and close this webinar with a Q&A. So if everyone's okay with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So our two guest speakers today are Nick Taylor and Erica Chapman from CommuniCare Health Centers. So Nick Taylor is the Health Services Supervisor of Community Operations for CommuniCare Health Centers. He has a master's degree in healthcare administration and interprofessional leadership from UC San Francisco. Since 2021, he has provided operational oversight for CommuniCare's mobile medicine program. Before then, he supervised a wide variety of other programs from CommuniCare as well, including outreach event planning, COVID screening and response, sexual and reproductive health education, and the front office staff at CommuniCare's West Sacramento location. He believes healthcare is a human right and strives to lead and support healthcare workers in providing care to as many people as possible, especially in communities that are underserved. Erica Chapman is a behavioral health clinician for CommuniCare Health Center's Mobile Medicine Team. She is currently earning her master's in social work from Smith College and studied psychology at St. Mary's College of California in undergrad. Erica has dedicated her career to working with vulnerable populations. While attending St. Mary's College of California, her love for serving marginalized communities was confirmed through many volunteer and intern experiences. Erica volunteered at Peer Health Exchange, teaching health classes to under-resourced high schools in the Bay Area. In 2016, she worked with Rainbow Community Center in Concord, California to create a transgender resource guide. During the summer, Erica volunteered at Camp Suzanne, an overnight camp for children whose mothers are incarcerated in Dublin, California correctional facility. Erica spent her last semester interning as a teacher's assistant at St. Mary's College in 2018. Erica worked at First Steps for Kids as a behavioral therapist for children with autism before working as a care coordinator at Newport Academy, a residential treatment facility for high-risk teens. Erica started at CommuniCare in 2020 as an intern for the Youth Services Program. Not long after, she was hired on as Youth and Family Specialist for Youth Opioid Response Program and as a counselor for the Cesar Chavez Alternative High School. A year later, she transitioned into the role of behavioral health clinician for the mobile medicine team. Through these opportunities, Erica's passion for work with underserved populations has grown immensely. So we thank Nick Taylor and Erica Chapman for representing CommuniCare Health Centers today here in this webinar. CommuniCare Health Centers and STEAC have been longtime partners, and most recently we have partnered to help bring food to homeless encampments around Yolo County, a program which we might hear more about today in this webinar. So without further notice, I'll go ahead and hand this off to Erica and Nick. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're very happy to be here. I think, Leanne, have you made me a host?
I did just make you a host. You might want to unpin Janelle because I didn't, or spotlight her first, or she'll get to stay up there with you the whole time.
Okay, fair enough. We won't make her do that.
Okay.
Okay, I will share my screen to start. Okay. Can everyone see the screen here with our first slide of the presentation? Great. Okay, Erica, you want to take it away?
Great. Yeah, thank you all so much for having us here today. We're really excited to get to share this information with you all. Before we get started, I was wondering what your experiences have been with people experiencing homelessness, whether that's through volunteer work, family, friends, family members or friends, or people you see in the community. What has your experience been like?
This is Deborah. I'm the food pantry manager, and my experience has just been previously in the community, but having been the food pantry manager, it's directly serving our homeless community that come to the pantry. So getting familiar with some of their needs, like do they have cooking, do they have refrigeration, and also learning, that some of their needs of like they can only take so much food at a particular time, or what I think some of us are learning that some have a lot of teeth issues, and so kind of learning what kind of foods are best for them. So that's kind of our experience from serving from the pantry. And we've really appreciated this partnership with you guys. When Leanne came to me in November and said, can we make some packs? We actually modeled the packs based on what we do for the kids pack program. Protein milk, canned tuna, cans of or pouches of tuna, beanie weenie, and things like that. It's very difficult to come up with a good pack where we don't have, the demand for cooking and refrigeration and that sort of thing, and can fit in a pack. At some point in this conversation, I would like to acknowledge the team that does do our packing. I don't know if that's okay to do maybe just now since I'm speaking. And they can, I would welcome them to join in. Sherry, Eric, Terry, and Marjorie are the three people that do the week-to-week packing, and they're very diligent about and concerned about, are we providing the food that we have available that we can get to your team? And so at some point too, Eric, I'd hope that you'd share the story, a couple of the anecdotes that you might have, but I don't want to spill your spoiler alert on those. But anyhow, I'll stop there. Thank you. If others would like to speak up, that would be good.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you to all who pack the food bags for us. I'll definitely talk more about that later, but certainly want to acknowledge all of you.
Hi, I'm Robin. I volunteered for a couple years at 1111 H Street and worked with inside and did a lot of stuff to help in the office, but I saw the homeless in action and I saw their needs, and I was just struck because a lot of it are very fearful of homeless, and I wanted to be with them and get over that fear, because they're human beings and they want what we want. We all want the same thing, and I saw that, and I don't. Of course, when you see some of these folks downtown Davis or whatever, you might have fear because they are disheveled and exhibit a behavior that might be frightening. But it was a very controlled setting at the homeless shelter, and I'm glad I was able to help there.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, you're really speaking to the stigma that people who are experiencing homelessness experience every day. And we really hope to fight that stigma and educate people so that there isn't so much fear. Thank you all for sharing.
Oh, I just want to add one quick thing. I'm not sure how many people are aware, but we do have one homeless individual who volunteers for our at our food drives. I think we actually haven't seen him since COVID, but hopefully he'll be able to get back involved when he feels ready or is able. But it's we do have. Just want to point out that it's not just clients we serve, but also part of our community of giving back is there are homeless individuals as well that are in part of this community in that way.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
That's awesome. I think it's really important to include the folks in the communities that we're serving in the work that we're doing. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, whoops, I'm sorry. It's probably going to skip.
Oh,
there we go.
That's good. Great. So some of the things that we're going to go over today, we're going to talk about our program, some of our data, share stories from the field, and talk about our STEAC partnership. First, we want to go over some definitions. When we are talking about people experiencing homelessness, we like to use person-first language. So instead of saying homeless people, we say people experiencing homelessness. This puts focus on the person rather than the situation. It really humanizes the individual. Housing First is an approach to serving people experiencing homelessness that recognizes a person must first be able to access a decent, safe place to live before stabilizing, improving health, reducing harmful behaviors, and increasing income. It's based on the hierarchy of needs that people must access basic necessities like a safe place to live and food to eat before being able to achieve quality of life or pursue personal goals. Shelter is temporary, and there is a lot more rules and restrictions versus housing. One type of housing and Housing First is permanent supportive housing. I don't know if you all have heard of Mercy in West Sacramento. It's a new permanent supportive housing that opened a few months ago. And it has low barriers for people to get into the program. And it's much more affordable with supportive services such as case management. Are you all familiar with Project Room Key or Project Home Key?
Leanne says yes.
Leanne says yes. Okay. So maybe some of you are and some of you aren't.
Oh, but I see a head shake. So it's a little combo.
Okay. I can't see anybody.
Oh, that's probably because I'm a host. Sorry.
Oh.
I have special powers.
None of those it looks like some of my teammates are in my cubicle getting some medical supplies for our clients. I'm doing a presentation for STEAC. It's okay.
Doing a presentation?
Yeah, right now.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Hello, STEAC.
They say hi. This is the doctor on our team, and our other provider, Dr. Portnoy, Dr. Kim. Do you want to say hi?
Thank you for the food.
Yeah, we're very appreciative. So Project Home Key was started in response to COVID. People who are living outside and in shelters are particularly vulnerable to being exposed to and contracting COVID. Project Room Key was started to protect those living outside and reduce COVID positive numbers by paying for motels in Yolo County. It's mostly ended and given way to Project Home Key. The county has bought, and what Project Home Key is the county has bought motels to house folks. And there's staff like case managers on site in those programs as well. So I have another question for you all. What do you believe? Can you go back? Thanks.
Sorry.
What do you believe? That's okay. What do you believe are the main causes of homelessness?
Should play some Jeopardy music, perhaps.
Mental illness.
Do.
Mental illness, I heard.
Mental illness.
Job loss.
Yeah, unemployment.
Maybe not enough family support in some cases.
Okay, yeah. Lack of family support.
Not
Right.
feeling a sense of community, in
Okay.
feeling part of the community for whatever reason they're alienated from the community.
Right. Yeah.
Alcohol, drug abuse, ever rising housing costs.
Yes. Yeah, lack of affordable housing, definitely. Nick, can you go to the next slide, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so a lot of you mentioned the things that are on this list and really hit the nail on the head. There tends to be a lack of understanding of the causes of homelessness. People tend to have biases that place blame on individuals as opposed to recognizing the structural and systemic reasons and barriers for why people are experiencing homelessness. Someone mentioned of lack of affordable housing, and that is really one of the main causes of homelessness. Do you all know the average cost of rent in Yolo County?
$1,200 maybe a month.
$1,200.
1,200.
That's a little bit low.
Okay.
14, I think is what I would have said for a 1-bedroom.
That's close. So in Yolo County, the average cost of housing is $1,500 a month. That's $18,000 a year. In Davis, the average cost is $2,400, and that's $28,000 a year, which leads me into low wages is one of the causes of homelessness. Minimum wage in California is $15 an hour. That's $29,000 a year. And so for someone who is making minimum wage, they will barely be able to afford housing in Yolo County and really not be able to afford housing in Davis. If for someone who has a family, they would need to decide between, am I going to pay my rent or am I going to pay for food or my medical needs? Someone mentioned mental illness and substance misuse. That is certainly a big cause. And really the lack of available services and access to services. The wait list for mental health services right now for the county, as well as private therapeutic services is a month. And the in-treatment substance use programs is 2 months long right now. So even for someone who is trying to access those services, it's really hard to get into. A month or two for someone who is struggling with mental illness or substance misuse is a really long time. And disability is also a big one. People with a disability experience housing, healthcare, employment, and wage discrimination. On average, people with disabilities are paid less and hired at a lower rate. And they also have more expenses. Domestic violence is a big one too. For folks who are experiencing domestic violence, they often are relying on their partner for financial stability and housing. And when they try to escape the domestic violence situation, they lose everything and end up without any type of housing. And please stop us at any point if you have any questions. All right. So from 2019 to 2004, Boston, I think Boston University, I want to say, conducted a study on the mortality rate among unsheltered homeless adults living in Boston. They followed a group of 119 rough sleeping adults. Rough sleeping just means that they were living outside For this group, they experienced 31 ER visits per person. This costs about $22,000 per person per year. So it's quite an expense. And they found that a third of the folks in that study died within 5 years. So homelessness really is a life-threatening condition. They conducted another study a few years later with 445 rest sleeping adults. They found that the mortality rate for people who were living in a shelter was 3 times more than the rest of the population, and that the mortality rate for people who are living outside is 10 times higher than the rest of the population. And there's similar results in other studies, or I'm sorry, other cities. And I just want to go back to the 22,000 per person really quick. You know, that was several years ago, so it's probably higher now. But the average cost of rent in Boston at that time was between $10,000 and $12,000. So it would have been much cheaper to house people as opposed to paying for those medical costs. But what are some barriers to people who are experiencing homelessness receiving health care? There are structural as well as individual barriers. If a person does not have insurance, then they're not going to be able to pay for services. As we were talking earlier, there's a stigma against people who are experiencing homelessness within the medical system. They are often viewed and treated very differently. And this can lead to what we have under here in the individual barriers. If a person has a previous bad experience with the medical system, they're going to be a lot less likely to go back. For folks who are struggling with substance misuse or a mental illness, it can be hard to keep track of appointments. There can also be some paranoia, so folks may be fearful to go see a doctor. And some strategies for how we can combat these barriers is meeting people where they are at, both physically and emotionally. Letting this client set the pace for treatment, so not pushing for things that the client isn't ready for. Building trust over time is a really big one. Trauma-informed care, a harm reduction approach. So what that means is not necessarily going in with the hope that you may stop behaviors or it's really about like reframing the goal of treatment to reduce harm as opposed to stopping completely. And then motivational interviewing. And motivational interviewing is understanding where a client is at in their wanting to change, and meeting them where they're at based on whether they want to change a behavior or not. Okay, this graph here shows the population of unhoused folks in Yolo County. As you can see, between 2017 and 2019, there was a really large spike in the number of people who are experiencing homelessness in Yolo County. Since 2019 and COVID, they haven't been able to do another count until this year. Nick, I saw you unmuted. Did you have something else that you wanted to say?
No, sorry.
This whole time? Okay. Since COVID, they haven't been able to do another count until February of this year. They did a point in time count, which mobile medicine did participate in. And what this is volunteers go out into the community and count the number of people who are living outside on one specific night of the year. And we have not gotten the results for that yet, but I would be really curious to see how the numbers have changed since 2019.
One other thing that I'll just briefly say about the what's called the point in time count is not only is it only one day per year that is used, but it's also typically in winter. So it's typically in January. This year they pushed it back slightly to when was that? March? February, thank you. So really still winter. And as you can imagine, there's, you know, it was really cold when we went out. And as you can imagine, there's going to be fewer people when you're literally just visually looking for people on the street than if we had gone out in, say, July or August. So there's a lot of limitations in data of just counting homeless populations. So just bear that in mind when you see these sort of numbers. It is extremely prone to human error.
I appreciate you saying that. I'll also add that during the winter time, we are housing a lot more folks.
Correct.
So the count is going to be a lot lower.
Mm-hmm. So, who are we? So the mobile medical team with CommuniCare is really a collaboration of multiple different networks of care. So the staff of the mobile medical team are all employees of CommuniCare Health Centers. However, we are grant funded through joint funding from Sutter Health, Dignity Health, and Yolo County Health and Human Services. We really interface with people from all of those different systems in order to coordinate care for clients. And it's just sort of the nature of the beast that, especially with clients who are experiencing homelessness, that they may interact with any number of these systems. They may interact with case managers, with homeless services through the county. They may go to a Sutter ER or hospital. They may go to a Dignity ER or hospital, or any combination at different times in their life. So it can often be quite complicated to coordinate care for these folks. And that is sort of a part of the reason why all of these different players sort of have an interest in this work. So our goal as a team is to reach, stabilize, and connect. So what that essentially means is going out and literally meeting people on the street where they are and providing direct field-based care to them as a first step. And that can mean anything from wound care to treating chronic disease to behavioral health and substance use services. We really see a whole gamut of concerns with these folks. And we know that these folks tend to have a lot of unmet medical and behavioral health needs that are often quite chronic, and results in them utilizing the ER for a great deal of their care, which, as Erica already went over, is extremely costly for society. So our goal is to keep people out of the hospital, to keep people out of ER. And the way we do that is not only by providing direct field-based care, but also, whenever possible, connecting people to brick and mortar services, connecting people to a primary care provider, connecting people to specialty care when they need it, etc. So that is sort of our overarching long-term goal for everybody that we see. So this goes just into a little more detail of the specific services that we provide. So within the medical realm, we see all different varieties of urgent care concerns. We also provide a lot of care for chronic conditions like congestive heart failure, COPD, diabetes, as well as a variety of behavioral health concerns and substance abuse related concerns as well. We do not yet have dental services on board. That is sort of a longer term plan that will probably start next year, where we will be able to actually have dental staff come out with us and do screenings and even some basic procedures on site. So that's a longer term goal. And then we also provide outreach and linkage to services, whether that is specialty care or linking people to primary care services, or linking people to hospitals if they require ER or hospitalization, or substance use treatment as well. The team, which part of whom you've now already met, are a nurse practitioner, a physician, we have an RN, a medical assistant, a social worker, who obviously that's Erica. We also have a peer advocate on the team. His name is Jack. He's actually someone with lived experience with homelessness. That was something that's been important for our team, to have, folks that are actually able to connect with other people who've experienced homelessness, who have experienced the same thing. And operations support, which is mainly me. So that is our team. This is the van. So on the left-hand side, that is the van that we currently use. Right now, it is mainly used for transportation and storage of medical supplies and things of that nature when we're going from site to site. So we don't really see clients inside of the van. The long-term goal, which is on the right, probably about a year from now, we have some additional grant funding to actually have a large sort of 40-foot RV style true mobile medical van, in which will be 2 exam rooms, fully outfitted for both medical and dental services, as well as phlebotomy and whatever else we need to do on site for folks. So that's kind of the long-term goal. We have officially accepted a bid from a vendor, and so they're now officially starting construction from the ground up of our new vehicle, and it's going to take about a year for it to get here from North Carolina. So we're very excited for that. So the next couple of slides are just a little bit of data to give you a sort of overview snapshot of the care we've given recently. So this is from our second quarter of data from the first 3 months of 2022. We saw 289 unique patients. 68 of those visits were for COVID or COVID exposure. We also do quite a few TB screenings. One of the requirements for a lot of longer term housing programs is that people have to demonstrate that they are negative on a TB screen. So that's something that we've provided for quite a few people recently. 40 visits for blood pressure management. And then our behavioral health staff saw 49 patients either for substance use disorder or other behavioral health related reasons. We basically go out 3 days a week. So on Mondays, we're in Woodland. On Tuesdays, we're in Davis. And on Thursdays, we're in West Sacramento. That's why you were seeing the staff coming back from their rounds in West Sacramento back to our Salute Clinic in West Sac, where Erica is and where I am. As you can see here, this is just again, a broad overview so that you can get a sense of visits by rough location. There are quite a few more visits in West Sacramento and Woodland for a couple of reasons. West Sacramento is the main site that we visit on a weekly basis that has Project Room Key and Home Key motels, which Erica sort of outlined earlier. And so we have quite a few clients that we have regularly established a connection with there, who we see every Thursday. And then in Woodland, the main place where we go is the homeless shelter, Fourth and Hope. And so there's quite a few clients out there. So that's one of the main, those are the main reasons why you see quite a few more visits in West Sacramento and Woodland as opposed to Davis. This past quarter, we saw a little bit more urgent care than other things. This really varied quite a bit from our first quarter last year, where urgent care and chronic care were much more equal. I think one of the main reasons why urgent care was so much larger this quarter was because we saw quite a few people for COVID or other flu and respiratory type stuff during the wintertime. So 57% of clients seen for urgent care, 15% treatment of chronic conditions, 10% ER follow-ups, 5% hospital follow-ups, 11% wound care, and then 2% MAT, which stands for medication-assisted treatment, which is for substance use.
So in September of last year, the behavioral health component was added to the mobile medicine team, and that consists of the behavioral health clinician, which is me, and the peer support advocate that Nick mentioned earlier, Jack, who has lived experience, so he is able to connect with clients on a really personal level. He also provides substance use treatment as well as case management. And some of the things that I do in my role is provide short-term mental health support while linking clients to long-term mental health services. I also do crisis treatment as well. So some of the experiences that our clients have that we see, pretty much, I would say all of our clients have experienced some form of trauma, often starting in early childhood. Homelessness itself is a form of trauma. Grief comes in many forms, not just the loss of a loved one, but also the loss of a home, possessions, independence. If you look at the picture on the right there, that is from a memorial service for a client at Project Room Key who passed away. She was a really big part of the community and her loss was really felt. And it was really beautiful to see everyone come together for this memorial service. And this is outside of her room where she was living. And many of our clients also are struggling with severe mental illness. This could be PTSD, major depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia. Those are some of the common ones that I see in the field. And several of our clients are struggling with addiction as well. The majority of people who struggle with addiction are using substances to cope with untreated trauma or to self-medicate for untreated mental illness. Then on the right there are some of the identities that our clients hold. We have some clients who were former foster youth, who are veterans. We have many elderly clients. About 15% of our clients are 65 and older, and they struggle with dementia, are handicapped, and really have a difficult time taking care of themselves. When I first started with Mobile Med, I was really struck and startled by the amount of clients that we have that have physical and intellectual disabilities. I found a few studies that showed about 40% of people experiencing homelessness have some sort of disability. And then all of our clients have little or no income. Some of them have SSI, And for folks who are receiving SSI, that's between $800 to $1,000 a month. And as we discussed earlier, this is really not enough to be able to afford housing in Yolo County. We're going to share some stories with you about clients from the field. All of the stories and pictures have been, we asked our clients for permission to share these stories and photos. And if you choose to pass these stories along, please do so with respect. First, I'm going to share a story with you about a client who I'm going to call Lester, who I have been working with for many months now. Lester used to work as a commercial fisherman. It was his livelihood, but also his passion. Due to chronic pain and disability, he was forced to quit. Not only did he lose his livelihood and source of income, but he lost his purpose in life. Let's see. Along with that, he lost his home and everything he owned. He became homeless and has been living outside for 3 years. Lester had underlying mental health disorders, and as a child, he was severely abused. He struggles with PTSD and major depressive disorder. Up until this point, he had been coping with his mental health symptoms, but when he lost everything and began living outside, his mental and physical health declined. In the 3 years that Lester was living outside, he tried to end his life 6 times. I met Lester the first day that he got to the shelter. He had just been discharged from a 115-day stay at the psych hospital following a suicide attempt. He was tearful and had no hope. He did not want to continue living. With weekly counseling that I provided, shelter, a secure source of food, medication for his mental and physical health provided by our medical team, and the relationships that we formed with him, Lester's mental health improved, and he is no longer suicidal. He smiles, laughs, and makes jokes. He enjoys reading science fiction novels and is planning for the future. With his mental health stabilized and through a lot of trust building and motivational interviewing, I have connected Lester with primary care and long-term mental health services. In order for Lester to continue to progress, he needs more stable housing. And this is a direct quote from him. "This isn't the end of the road for me." I really like this story because it so clearly demonstrates what a different shelter and access to services can make. You can go to the next slide, Nick.
Thanks for sharing that. So I'm going to share a story about a woman we're calling Lucy. Lucy is a favorite of the team, I've been told, particularly Dr. Kim. As you can see, her shirt says, "If my mouth doesn't say it, my face definitely will." You can see her pictured with her dog there. Her dog's name is DOG. So she, as you can tell, she's a client with a little bit of sass, which we like. Lucy is a middle-aged woman with uncontrolled type 2 diabetes. She's on insulin. She has 3 dogs, and she's chronically homeless. She's been homeless for years. In August of 2020, she burned her finger on a hot plate and severely damaged it. Her finger got worse because she didn't have access to medical care. She went to the emergency room at UC Davis Hospital. After her discharge from the emergency room, she was referred to our team, and we started seeing her on a weekly basis. We provided her finger with wound care, and we also started managing her diabetes. When she went to the ER, she was actually told by the ER physician who treated her that they actually wanted to amputate the end of her finger because it was so severely burned. And she basically told them no, that she would go against their medical advice and keep her very damaged finger. So they did what they could to clean and remove the parts of the finger that were too severely damaged, but basically keep her finger intact. After she started seeing us, she started taking insulin every single day again. I'm going to show you a series of photos. If any of you get squeamish about photos featuring blood or wounds, it's a little bit graphic, so this is a fair warning to you. So this is the way that her finger initially looked when she first went to the ER and they assessed her there. This is what happened. This is a picture of her finger after they treated her in the ER. As you can see, it's certainly not healed. However, after we started seeing her and providing her with regular wound care, you can see that her finger there is, I mean, extremely well healed compared to how it started. And again, she didn't have to get her finger amputated because of the care that we directly provided to her. We also were able to help her bring her A1C under control. So if you're unaware, a normal A1C would be 5.7 or under generally. Her A1C when we first started seeing her was 14. So that's very uncontrolled diabetes. And it came down to 8.3 and eventually down to 6.9. So a significant improvement for someone with that severe of uncontrolled diabetes. She's also been established with care at CommuniCare health centers, and she's seeing her primary care physician regularly. We were also able to support her in moving into permanent housing, where she has been since August of 2021. So this story is really a testament to, similar to the last story, where simply being able to connect people to services and then connect them from there to housing really has a powerful impact on their lives and can make major, major health improvements to their life. So how do you refer people to our team? We actually have two different lines. For patients, we have a line that is a self-referral line. So a patient doesn't need a referral. They can call us anytime. This is a non-emergency voicemail, which we check every single day. The number is listed there. It does have an extension, 1234. For folks like yourself who are doing, providing services in the community, if you are seeing a client and you would like to help facilitate a referral for them, you're welcome to do so. And you can call our referral warm line. The number is listed there. You're also welcome to email us if that's easier for you. That's our team email. Again, we check our email certainly every day. The referral warm line is actually open to any providers in the community, such as hospitals, ERs, things like this. So it rings to multiple people's cell phones, and even on weekends and evenings, where usually somebody is answering that line. So it's pretty regularly answered if you call it.
Great. Let's talk about our partnership with STEAC. So this started in November of last year. We started with receiving 20 bags, 5 of which were soft bags. So these soft bags are for folks who have dental issues. And just recently, we've bumped it up to 30 bags. We give these bags to clients who we meet in encampments, at the shelter, in the motels, who do not have a secure source of food. It allows us to build trust and rapport with clients, and having food improves physical and mental health. The bags go very quickly each week. Folks are very grateful to receive those. And I want to share a story with you about a client who I'm going to call Patrick. He was using the day services at the shelter when I met him. When I first met him, he accepted the bag. He was pretty apprehensive to talk to me and just went on his way. But the following week, he actually approached me, and he told me that when he got the bag from me the previous week, he hadn't eaten in 4 days, and that the food saved his life. You can see there's a direct quote there. And it helped us to form a relationship. We got to talking, and he shared with me that he was struggling with substance misuse, and I was able to connect him with substance use services. The client that I mentioned earlier, Lester, was briefly exited from the shelter. And while he was exited from the shelter, I continued to meet with him every week. He is pretty severely physically disabled and cannot get around. I don't know if you all are familiar with where the shelter is, but it's in the middle of nowhere. And there's no bus line that goes out there. So once he was exited, he was just living in a field right next to the shelter and was not able to walk to go and get food for himself. So I really believe that the food bags were imperative to his survival while he was exited from the shelter. But what can you all do for clients who are coming in to STEAC and struggling with mental health situations? So I've outlined 2 different potential things that you all can do, or services that you can reach out to or connect clients with. One of them being the Navigation Center. This is a CommuniCare program that works with the county. And what they do is provide mental health assessments for the county and link clients to long-term mental health services. They also provide crisis interventions. So if a client is actively suicidal or homicidal, they can come into the Navigation Center, and the Navigation Center can put them on a 5150 hold if they determine that that is what the client needs. They can only do so if the client goes into the center, however. The other thing that they provide is substance use assessments and linking clients to substance use treatment. This is a really great resource if clients are struggling with mental health, struggling with substance misuse, but are not really actively suicidal or homicidal, so they're not like an immediate threat to themselves or others. This would be a good place to refer clients to. It's also a good resource for service providers as well. If you're unsure about how to support a client in a situation, you can always give them a call and they can guide you in how to support the client. And I've provided their phone number as well as their address. If you're familiar with the Health and Human Services Agency on A Street, they're in the exact same building. The other option is contacting the Davis PD non-emergency line. And what this is really for folks who are in severe mental health crisis, and they are an immediate threat to themselves or to other people. So they are going to hurt themselves or hurt others. And if you call that number, Officers along with a mental health provider will come and work with the client and potentially put them on a 5150 hold if they determine that that is what is needed. It is in no way your job or responsibility to be making assessments and determining what level an individual is at as far as, you know, whether they're in crisis or not. So like I said, if you're unsure, it's a good idea to call the navigation center. I also just want to mention that we have clients sometimes who may be talking to themselves or yelling, and that can be kind of shocking or concerning to people. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are an immediate threat to themselves or others, and doesn't require calling the Davis PD non-emergency line. And that's it. Thank you all so much for having us. Here are our emails if you want to get in contact with us. And we'll just leave you with the picture of this note that our team found in one of the encampments. Someone had written it and it was on the ground. It says, "Make today worth every minute. Love your life."
So we're happy to take questions if folks have them.
I don't have a question. This is Kim Eichhorn, but I just want to say thank you for the amazing work that you do, and just for educating us about kind of humanizing some of these stories. I think it's been really helpful for me.
Thank you for saying that. We appreciate the work that you all do. You know, this is, it takes a village, as they say. And, you know, I think the more that we strengthen our connections as community agencies serving these folks, I think better outcomes for these people will be. So thank you. Mead.
Yeah, I have a quick question just about your referral process. You mentioned from, say, from an ER, it might be referred to you. I'm just curious what the support looks like to actually link them to the first time of being face-to-face with your providers, like what that pathway looks like.
Good question. It's a process. It's been a work in progress to make that path as smooth as possible. Essentially, we've partnered particularly with Sutter Davis Hospital staff and also Woodland Memorial Hospital staff, particularly ER staff and inpatient staff. So I mean, obviously they have the information that I presented you. They also have a referral form. So we've kind of formalized the structured referral process of all the information that we need about the client in order to make contact with them. So if the client has a phone, we want to know what their phone number is. If they don't, we want to know as much as possible what specific location they're being discharged to. If they have a car, what does their car look like? All those kinds of details, so that as much as possible, we can make that sort of first connection with them. Our staff will also sometimes go out to hospitals and ERs and actually do a bedside handoff with the hospital staff and the ER staff, because we know obviously that when you can put a face to a name, and the ER or hospital is not just referring them to a faceless entity that they've never seen before, and they can see that we're real people who really will support them, they're much more likely to participate in follow-up care. So that's roughly how it looks like. Does that answer your question?
Neat, yeah, that definitely does. And neat that you're able to do that warm handoff.
Yeah, it's been very helpful.
Cool, thank you.
It's helpful too, because a lot of these people, especially when they're admitted to the ER or admitted, I should say, when they visit the ER or admitted to the hospital, a lot of these folks are sort of in a gray area clinically, where it's not clear if they should be discharged to the street or if they should be discharged to a skilled nursing facility, or if they need rehab for addiction, or, you know, these can be very complicated, medically complicated cases. And so it's really helpful when care providers and other parts of the system can collaborate with us and talk to us about what's going on with the client before they just discharge them to the street, which often happens with unhoused folks. And then they're sort of left out to dry. So we're really trying hard for that not to happen, and to make sure that, you know, the best possible care plan is being done for what that client's needs are clinically.
I would just ask one question. In the area of homelessness, what would you advocate for most right now? I know, is it more shelter beds? Is it more prevention out there, more mental health support? I'm always curious what you think from your perspective would really support your work or support the people who are experiencing homelessness the most.
I have thoughts. I'm curious if Erica has thoughts.
The most glaring and obvious thing to me would be just more affordable housing. The Section 8 vouchers right now are all being used up. Folks who are renting really don't want to rent to Section 8. We really just need more housing that people can actually afford and get into.
I would also say, I think we need more robust mental health and substance use services in the county. It's very inadequate to meet the actual demand of what people actually need. There's not enough beds for substance use treatment or even other types of inpatient treatment. And often, you know, care for people is very disjointed. And so I think, I don't know that there's necessarily one magic pill to fix that, but if we could find a way to better integrate different levels of care, I think that would go a long way to helping to support a lot of these people who often fall between the cracks whenever there's, you know, any hiccup in communication between different care providers, and also just literally having the services available to them.
This is Katie. I had a follow-up to Leanne's question. So what % of the people you helped are in need because of lack of affordable housing? Do you have a rough idea on that?
I don't know offhand. It's a mixture. So there are, and I don't know that I've heard the numbers before, but it's not coming to me immediately. But there's a percentage of people who are chronically homeless, like the woman Lucy, who I told you about, who've been, you know, who have been homeless for years and years. And there's another sort of section of people who have only been homeless for like a year or less. And that's often due to short-term economic reasons, job loss, things of that nature. Whereas the chronic homeless population, it tends to be other things that have complicated the picture. But Erica, go ahead if you have other thoughts.
Yeah, I don't have a specific number. I can just say anecdotally.
Sorry, we have a page coming through our overhead system, which is very fascinating.
Is that what's going on? Okay. I can just say anecdotally that I have a good majority and a handful of clients who are receiving SSI and wanting to get into housing and are not able to do so because the lists are full and they're not there are no available units.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah.
And they'll be on the wait list for, year or more.
All right, thanks.
I want to thank you guys. I want to acknowledge that we're over time and you guys have graciously continued answering questions. But I want to make sure you guys can get home and have some dinner.
No problem. We're happy to be here, and please feel free to reach out. You have our contact information, so please reach out. This is not a one-time conversation, so we're happy to continue collaborating with you. And if you want us to come back and present again, we're happy to do that, or however else we can support. Awesome. It's been wonderful, and I learned a lot. I really appreciate it. And thank you everybody who came and is still here and listening. And like we said in the beginning, if you have some ideas about what you want to do for our future meetings, or want to be on the committee that helps select it, please let us know, because we're looking for you.
Thank you, Erica and Nick.
Thank you.
It was great.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Take
All
care,
right.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Maybe.